Ethan Clark shifted his leather briefcase from one shoulder to the other, adjusting his tie as he inched forward in the snaking airport security line. The rhythmic hum of announcements, the scent of overpriced coffee, and the chatter of hurried travelers blended into a background noise that he had grown accustomed to over years of constant business trips. He checked his watch. Time had always been his most precious commodity. Yet at that moment, time itself seemed to freeze. A flash of auburn hair caught his eye. At first, he thought it was a trick of the mind, a ghost conjured by too many late nights and regrets. But no, it was her, Anna. She stood just ahead of him in line, shifting a baby on her hip. Her head was down, her expression a blend of exhaustion and worry. The baby, no more than a year old, wore a small blue cap that accentuated round cheeks and sleepy eyes. A shiver raced down Ethan's spine. His heart pounded with a cocktail of anger, longing, and confusion. She had left him, shattered him, years ago, disappearing with the promise that it was better for them both. He had thrown himself into his empire, building skyscrapers and shattering competitors, but he had never fully escaped the echo of her laughter or the sting of her betrayal. Now here she was, looking older, softer, worn. His mind grasped at questions like a drowning man reaching for driftwood. Why was she here? Who was the baby's father? Could it be? No. He refused to entertain that thought. His pulse quickened as he approached her, an internal battle between dignity and desperation warring inside him. He forced his breathing steady. Anna. His voice came out more composed than he felt. She turned slowly, her green eyes widening as they met his. For a moment, the noise around them faded into silence. Ethan. Her voice was a whisper, barely louder than the baby's soft coo. An awkward silence settled between them, like a chasm neither knew how to cross. You look, well, Ethan said, though he knew it was a lie. Her eyes were ringed with fatigue, her hair pulled back into a loose ponytail that had seen better days. Anna managed a strained smile. Life has been complicated. She shifted the baby on her hip, patting its back absent-mindedly. Ethan's gaze darted to the child, then back to Anna. Is that... She shook her head, cutting him off. Not here, please. If this story resonated with you, subscribe to the channel and spread the word and tell us where you're watching from. He clenched his jaw, the questions bubbling beneath the surface, but nodded. Fine. Another pause, the distance between them filled with all the words they had never said. Safe travels, Ethan, she said, her voice catching. She turned, away, moving toward the security checkpoint with the baby held tight against her chest. He watched her go, feeling an ache he had long pretended did not exist, the lines of her face, the tremble in her voice. None of it matched the cold, calculating woman he had convinced himself she had become. He exhaled, the air thick with memories of sleepless nights and broken promises. Around him, the airport came, back into focus, the overhead announcements, the clatter of luggage, the sharp scent of jet fuel. But nothing could drown out the echo of Anna's voice in his mind. As he moved forward in line, the child's blue cap still visible in the distance, Ethan's chest tightened. He tried to remind himself that he had left that life behind, that she no longer held any power over him. But the baby's eyes, half closed against the noise of the airport, lingered in his mind like a question that refused to be answered. He did not know then that this encounter would unravel everything he thought he had buried, that it would drag him back into a web of secrets, betrayals, and truths he was not ready to face. Ethan's gaze hardened with resolve as he handed his boarding pass to the TSA agent. Whatever Anna's story was, he would not let her pull him down again. But deep inside, something fragile stirred, a part of him that wondered if the past could ever truly be left behind. As the plane taxied down the runway, Ethan stared at the clouds outside his window. His mind replayed Anna's haunted eyes and the baby's innocent face. He clenched his fists, knowing that questions demanded answers, and that the past was about to come crashing back. The plane rumbled beneath Ethan as it lifted off the tarmac, a mechanical sigh of engines straining against gravity. The city lights, below blurred into a string of pearls, the world reduced to a distant memory. Yet nothing could blur the image of Anna's weary face, or the haunting blue of the baby's cap. He shifted in his seat, loosening his tie as if the fabric were a noose. The hum of the airplane cabin, soft conversations, the whir of air vents, offered no comfort. Every sound felt sharp, a reminder of the jagged memories that refused to fade. He closed his eyes, but sleep would not come. Instead, the past rose like a tide, relentless and cold. He remembered the beginning, how Anna had once laughed freely, how her eyes had sparkled when she spoke of dreams they would build together. But he had been too busy chasing deals, expanding his empire, amassing wealth that now felt as heavy as chains. He remembered the late nights, his constant travel, and the phone calls that grew shorter and more strained. The way Anna's laughter had faded into silence. The fights, fierce, bitter words hurled across expensive furniture. And then that night. He had come home from a triumphant business dinner, flush with victory and expensive whiskey, only to find Anna in tears. She had packed a small bag, her eyes swollen from crying. He had accused her of being ungrateful, of wanting to run. She had said she needed space, that she felt like a stranger in her own life. He had let her go. Or maybe he had pushed her. The thought left a bitter taste in his mouth, as if he had swallowed regret itself. He opened his eyes, staring at the reflection of his own face in the darkened window. The man who stared back was hard, but a fracture had formed, a small hairline crack he had tried to ignore. His phone buzzed in his pocket, a welcome distraction from the noise inside his head. He pulled it out and dialed his assistant. "Mr. Clark?" came the crisp, professional voice of Lila, always efficient. "Lila," he said, his tone flat. "I need you to look into something for me." "Of course, sir. What do you need?" "Anna," he muttered, his voice nearly drowned out by the engines. "My ex-wife. I need to know where she's been living, who she's been seeing, everything. And I need to know about the baby." There was a slight hesitation on the line. "Yes, sir. Right away." He ended the call, his thumb hovering over the screen before he set the phone down on the tray table. Outside, the night sky stretched endless and black, punctuated by scattered lights far below. The reflection in the window shimmered with the turbulence. A man in a tailored suit, his jaw clenched, his eyes shadowed with doubt. He wondered, could the baby be his? A part of him wanted to reject the idea, to believe that Anna had found someone else and that the child was none of his concern. But another part, the part he had buried beneath ambition and pride, felt a sickening flicker of hope. He exhaled sharply, the taste of old arguments and unsaid apologies lingering in the dry airplane air. As the plane leveled out, the cabin lights dimmed, casting everything in a soft, uncertain glow. Ethan leaned back, eyes open, mind spinning with possibilities. He knew one thing. He could not ignore this. Whatever secrets Anna carried, whatever mistakes they both had made, they were no longer content to stay buried. And as the engines droned, on into the night, Ethan felt the weight of the past pressing in, like a shadow waiting for its moment to return. The rain fell in relentless sheets, streaking the glass walls of Ethan's high-rise apartment like tears that refused to be wiped away. He stood by the window, the city lights below blurred and muted, a reflection of his own turbulent thoughts. Anna's face haunted him, her eyes that baby's cap, the unanswered questions. The doorbell rang, sharp and insistent, shattering the fragile silence. Ethan's heart lurched. He had not expected visitors tonight. His meetings had all been canceled after a long day of calls. He hesitated for a moment, a deep breath steadying his resolve. Then he opened the door. There she was. Anna stood on the threshold, soaked to the bone. Her hair clung to her face in wet strands, and her eyes were red from crying. In her arms she held the baby, wrapped in a thin blanket, its cheeks flushed with cold. "Ethan," she whispered, her voice ragged with desperation. He stiffened, his body a wall of disbelief and anger. "What are you doing here, Anna?" She took a trembling step forward, clutching the baby tighter. "Please, I had nowhere else to go. I need your help. He is yours." Ethan recoiled as if struck, the words slicing through his carefully constructed defenses. "What are you talking about? Mine? You think you can just show up here after all these years and—" She sobbed, her tears mixing with the rain on her face. "Please, Ethan. He is your son." "I did not want to burden you, but—" He cut her off, his voice cold and controlled, but his eyes betrayed a flicker of uncertainty. "You expect me to believe that? After everything you did? After the way you left?" Anna's lips trembled. "I had no choice. You do not know everything. There were things I could not tell you, things that would have destroyed us both." The baby whimpered, a small, pitiful sound that pierced Ethan's anger. He glanced at the child, his mind a storm of questions. "Why now?" he demanded, his voice low. "Why come to me now?" Anna's gaze met his, unwavering despite the tears. "Because I am in danger. We are in danger. There are people—" She broke off, her voice cracking. "Please, Ethan. Let me in. Let me explain." He hesitated, his mind warring between suspicion and a sudden, inexplicable urge to protect her. Memories of their past, of laughter and betrayal, of love and ruin, collided inside him. Finally, he stepped back, allowing her to cross the threshold. The smell of her perfume, familiar, intoxicating, dangerous, wrapped around him like a memory he had tried to forget. She moved past him, her steps unsteady, and cradled the baby closer. Ethan closed the door, the sound final and heavy. Outside, the rain continued to fall, a relentless curtain against the cityscape. Inside, the air felt charged, like a storm waiting to break. He turned to face her, his jaw tight, his eyes narrowed. "You have a lot to explain, Anna." She nodded, tears glistening on her cheeks. "I know. Just, please, let me tell you. Everything. I have been carrying this alone for too long." Ethan crossed his arms, his expression hard but his heart caught between disbelief and a stubborn sense of duty. "Then start talking," he said, his voice like steel. The baby let out a small cry and Anna's gaze softened. Ethan felt a pang deep in his chest, a vulnerability he thought he had buried. And he knew that whatever story Anna had to tell, it was about to change everything. The baby had finally fallen asleep, nestled against Anna's chest, his tiny hand clutching a lock of her hair. Ethan watched from across the room, arms crossed, his gaze hard. The rain had eased outside, but the tension between them pressed down like a storm cloud. Anna sat on the edge of the couch, her shoulders hunched as if the weight of her secret was a physical burden. The dim light from the lamp beside her cast shadows across her face, making her look both fragile and haunted. Ethan broke the silence first, his voice low but sharp. "Start from the beginning, Anna. No more half-truths, no more tears. I want the whole story." She flinched, but her eyes met his, determination flickering behind the fear. "After I left you," she began, her voice trembling, "I thought I was protecting you. I thought I was protecting both of us." Ethan's jaw tightened. "Protecting me from what?" She exhaled shakily, her fingers brushing the baby's cheek. "From Marcus. You remember him, your business rival. He was dangerous, Ethan. More dangerous than you ever knew. He threatened me." Ethan's eyes darkened, his mind flashing, back to tense boardroom meetings, suspicious deals that had nearly tanked his company. "Marcus? That snake. What did he want from you?" Anna's lip quivered. "He wanted leverage over you. He wanted your empire, your name. Anything he could use to destroy you. And he found it in me." A bitter laugh escaped Ethan. "So you gave him what he wanted? You ran away and let him win?" "No." Anna's voice cracked, tears spilling over. "I thought by leaving I could keep you safe. I thought if I stayed away he would lose interest. But I was wrong. He followed me, threatened me, even after I left you. And when I found out I was pregnant, I knew he would use the baby to hurt you. Ethan's eyes narrowed, suspicion a slow burn in his chest. You expect me to believe this? That all this time you were protecting me? Or are you just trying to cover your own guilt? Anna's breath hitched. I know I hurt you. I know I left you alone with questions I never answered. But I swear to you, Ethan, I only wanted to protect you. Marcus is not finished. He will come for you, for our son. I had to warn you. The words hung between them like a blade. Ethan's mind raced, his heart torn between anger and the faintest glimmer of belief. Shadows danced on the wall, stretching their silhouettes into grotesque shapes. He stared at Anna, at the woman who had broken him and now claimed to be his protector. How do I know this is not another lie? How do I know this baby is mine? Anna's shoulders shook as she sobbed, pressing her forehead to the baby's hair. I wish I could prove it right now, but please, Ethan, look at him. Look at his eyes, his hair. He is yours. And Marcus knows it too. A long silence settled over the room, broken only by the baby's gentle breathing. Ethan felt the walls closing in, the room growing smaller as the secrets pressed down on him. Finally he spoke, his voice low and strained. If what you are saying is true, we are all in danger. Anna looked up, her eyes rimmed with desperation. Please, Ethan, I need you. We need you. Ethan turned away, his mind a battlefield of questions. He walked to the window, staring at the city below, knowing that answers were waiting. But so were dangers he had never imagined. The city still glistened with the aftermath of rain, the sidewalks slick and reflective, mirroring Ethan's own unsettled mind. He pulled his coat tighter around his shoulders as he approached the glass doors of his building, each step echoing against the damp pavement. The streetlights glowed with a cold, distant light, fractured in the puddles at his feet. He felt eyes on him. His chest tightened. A fleeting shadow moved at the edge of his vision, near the alley to his left. He paused, scanning the darkness, but saw only a figure slipping behind a parked car. A man with a hunched posture and something off in the way he carried himself. Ethan's breath quickened. He turned back toward the building, pushing through the revolving door, his pulse thundering in his ears. The lobby was mostly empty at this hour, its marble floors gleaming beneath sterile lights, yet the sense of being watched clung to him like a second skin. Upstairs, the apartment felt too quiet. Anna was in the living room, the baby finally asleep in a crib Ethan had hastily arranged. Her face was drawn, eyes hollow, and when she looked at him, her desperation seeped into the room like poison. Ethan, what's wrong? She asked, her voice trembling. He shook his head, his jaw tight. There was someone outside. I think he was following me. Anna's breath caught, her hands clutching the baby's blanket. Marcus, she whispered, a shiver running through her. He is getting closer. He will not stop. Ethan turned away, his reflection staring back at him from the rain-specked window. His own face looked unfamiliar, hard, lined with exhaustion. Or maybe it's you, he muttered. Maybe. You are dragging this danger with you. Her voice cracked. How can you say that? I told you everything. He spun around, anger flaring in his chest. You told me lies for years, Anna. How am I supposed to trust you now? How do I know any of this is real and not some game you are playing to get back into my life? Tears welled in her eyes as she stood, her shoulders trembling. Because I love you, Ethan. Because I never stopped loving you. And because I am terrified of what he will do to our son. Their eyes locked, pain and suspicion dancing like shadows between them. Ethan felt the weight of their shared history pressing on his chest. The baby stirred in the crib, a soft whimper that cut through the tension like a blade. Ethan turned his gaze to the child, a pang of guilt twisting in his gut. Was he letting his pride blind him to the truth? Anna stepped closer, her voice a fragile thread. Please, Ethan, we need each other now more than ever. I cannot do this alone. He drew a sharp breath, his mind a labyrinth of questions. Outside, the rain had started again, drumming softly against the window. Somewhere in the back of his mind, he replayed the shape of the man in the alley, the scarred face, the eyes that had glinted beneath the streetlight. Ethan's hands curled into fists. Maybe Anna was right. Maybe Marcus was closer than he had ever imagined. "Lock the doors," he said finally, his voice low but steady. "No one comes in or out tonight." Anna's lips trembled, but she nodded, relief and fear mixing in her eyes. As Ethan turned toward the door, he felt the darkness outside pressing against the glass and knew the night was far from over. Thunder cracked like a warning shot, rattling the window panes as lightning forked across the sky. Ethan stood by the kitchen island, his hand wrapped around the stem of a wine glass, the veins in his wrist taut. The glass trembled in his grasp, a hairline crack running through it, a fragile thing on the verge of shattering. Anna hovered near the doorway, her arms wrapped protectively around her torso, as if bracing for impact. Shadows danced on the walls, thrown by the occasional flash of lightning. The silence between them pulsed with the weight of all that had been left unsaid. Ethan's mind churned with fragments of conversations he had once dismissed, moments he had brushed aside in favor of ambition and success. He remembered the way Anna's smile had faded at business dinners when Marcus had shown up uninvited, how her laughter had seemed forced, her eyes darting from Ethan to Marcus with a flicker of something he had refused to name. He set the cracked glass down too hard, a thin line of red wine creeping across the marble like a bleeding wound. "You think I am blind, Anna?" His voice was low, dangerous. Anna's eyes widened, her lips trembling. "Ethan, do you think I never noticed how he looked at you, how you looked at him?" His tone sharpened like a blade, slicing through the fragile calm. "All those late meetings, the secret calls, did you really think I would never piece it together?" Tears welled in Anna's eyes, her hands trembling. "It was a mistake, Ethan. A terrible mistake. I was lonely and you were never there. The us." Words hit him like a punch. Lightning illuminated the room, stark and merciless. "So you turned to him? My enemy? The man who would see my empire burn to the ground?" She flinched, each word a lash. "I did not know what he was then," she whispered, her voice breaking. "I was weak. I was scared. He promised to protect me when you were always gone." "Protect? You?" Ethan spat, his hands curling into fists. "And what about me, Anna? Did you ever think about how that would destroy me? About the betrayal?" She shook her head, her hair clinging to damp cheeks. "I regretted it the moment it happened. I ended it before he could sink his claws in any deeper. I tried to come back to you, but it was too late." Ethan's chest heaved, his breath ragged, with fury and heartbreak. He stared at the cracked glass, the wine pooling like blood. "And the baby?" he demanded. "Is he even mine?" Anna's shoulders sagged, the weight of the world pressing down. "I do not know," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "But I want him to be yours. I need him to be yours." The room seemed to shrink around them, the shadows growing thicker, the thunder outside a steady drumbeat. Ethan's vision blurred with rage and pain. He wanted to scream, to break something, to hurt her the way she had hurt him, but instead he gripped the counter, knuckles white. "I cannot trust you, Anna," he growled. "Not until I know the truth." She moved closer, her eyes pleading, the baby's soft cries echoing from the other room. "Please, Ethan, let me fix this. Let me prove that I love you." He turned away, his voice cold. "A DNA test. Tomorrow. If you are telling the truth, then we will talk. Until then, I will protect the baby, whether he is mine or not." Morning came like a blade, cutting through the shadows that had settled over Ethan's apartment. The city was quiet in that eerie way it sometimes was before dawn, the air thick with unspoken words. Ethan sat at the kitchen table, the DNA test kit in front of him like a silent judge. The sleek white box gleamed under the overhead light, sterile and cold. The baby slept in the other room, Unaware of the storm that brewed around him, Anna stood across from Ethan, arms crossed protectively over her chest. Her eyes were swollen from a night of tears and restless pacing. Every time she tried to speak, her voice caught in her throat. Ethan's jaw was set, his fingers tapping a relentless rhythm on the table. The clock on the wall ticked loud and steady, a metronome counting down to a verdict he was not sure he wanted to hear. He cleared his throat, his voice low but steady. I called the lab. They said the results would take a day. We can do the swab here and drop it off this afternoon. Anna's breath hitched, her eyes darting to the baby's room and back. Ethan, what if... He cut her off, his tone sharper than intended. I need to know. After everything, Marcus, the lies, I need to know. She looked down, tears slipping down her cheeks. I understand. I am so afraid of what it might say. Ethan's phone buzzed, breaking the tense silence. He grabbed it, recognizing the number immediately. Lila, he answered. Mr. Clark. His assistant's voice came through, crisp but tinged with unease. I looked into Marcus like you asked. You were right to be suspicious. He's got connections to some very dangerous people. Money laundering, arms deals. It's worse than I thought. Ethan's grip on the phone tightened, his mind racing. Thank you, Lila. Keep digging, and be careful. He ended the call, setting the phone down with a thud. Anna's voice was a fragile whisper. What did she say? He met her gaze, eyes hard. Marcus is more than just a rival. He's dangerous, Anna. You were right about that. She pressed, her hand to her mouth, a sob escaping. Ethan, I never wanted to bring that into our lives. I thought I could outrun it. I thought I could protect you. Ethan leaned back, the weight of betrayal and the burden of responsibility crushing him. I want to believe you, but every time I think I can, there's another lie waiting. She stepped forward, her eyes pleading. Then believe this. I love you, I always have, and no matter what that test says, he needs you, we need you. His heart twisted, memories of their shared laughter and broken promises tangling in his mind. The test kit sat between them, an object of dread and hope all at once. Lightning flashed in the distance, echoing his own turmoil. He picked up the kit, turning it over in his hands. The clock ticked, each second louder than the last. He stood, resolved. We will do the test now. Whatever the truth is, we will face it. Anna's shoulders sagged with a mixture of relief and terror. She reached out, but he stepped back. Not yet, he said, his voice a fragile thread. Not until I know. He turned away, steeling himself against the flood of emotion. Somewhere in the shadows, he knew Marcus was waiting. And whatever the test revealed, the danger was only beginning. Ethan had barely set the DNA test kit on the counter when the lock clicked. It was a subtle sound, too quiet for the wind that rattled the windows, too deliberate to be the creak of the old building. A sick feeling knotted in his gut. Anna, cradling the baby in the next room, did not hear it. But Ethan did. He turned toward the door just as it burst open. A man lunged through, his face half hidden beneath a hood, but the jagged scar running from his temple to his jaw glistened like a brand. The man's eyes burned with a cold fury. Anna! Ethan shouted, voice raw with urgency. She screamed, her voice tearing through the apartment. The baby cried, a wail of confusion and fear that tore at Ethan's chest. The scarred man drew a knife, its blade catching the faint glow of the overhead light. Where is she? He growled, his voice like gravel. Ethan's mind went white-hot. He launched himself at the intruder, grabbing the man's wrist and shoving him back against the wall. The knife skittered across the floor, clanging as it hit the baseboard. Anna clutched the baby tighter, her breath ragged, eyes wide with terror. Stay back! Ethan barked at her, his own chest heaving. The scarred man lunged again, fists swinging. Ethan ducked, driving his shoulder into the man's chest and knocking him backward. The sound of glass shattering filled the air. Picture frames, vases, Anna's trembling cry. The baby screamed, the sound high and piercing, cutting through the chaos. Ethan's knuckles met flesh and the man grunted in pain, but he came back harder. A fist slammed into Ethan's ribs, a bolt of pain that nearly doubled him over. He saw red, blood trickling from a cut on his cheek, but he did not care. The baby's cries were the only thing that mattered. Anna's voice cracked as she screamed, "Ethan!" The man's fist connected again, but Ethan's rage burned hotter than the pain. He grabbed the man by the collar and slammed him into the kitchen island, sending a ceramic bowl crashing to the floor in a spray of fragments. The knife. Where was the knife? The man's hand scrabbled across the counter, finding the blade. He swung it wildly, catching Ethan's arm. The pain was immediate and bright, but Ethan barely felt it. With a roar, he drove his knee into the man's stomach, forcing him back, then grabbed his wrist, twisting until the knife clattered away. Blood dripped onto Ethan's shirt, bright against the white fabric. The baby's cries were desperate now, raw and scared. Anna sobbed, clutching the baby to her chest, backing against the wall as if the apartment itself were closing in. The scarred man spat blood, his eyes wild. "You cannot protect them," he hissed. "Marcus will find you both." Ethan's rage crystallized into something cold and certain. Not tonight. With a final push, he shoved the man out the door, slamming it shut and locking it tight. Silence descended, broken only by the baby's ragged cries and the sound of Anna's sobs. Ethan slumped against the door, chest heaving, blood seeping from his arm. He turned, meeting Anna's tearful gaze. "It's not over," he said, voice rough. As lightning cracked outside, Ethan knew the danger had only just begun, and that every promise he had ever made now hung by a thread. The wail of sirens sliced through the night air, a sharp contrast to the baby's fading cries. Ethan sat slumped in the corridor of the hospital, the antiseptic smell clinging to his clothes like regret. His shirt was still stained with blood from the fight, the dried edges cracking with every movement. Anna sat across from him, her face pale under the harsh fluorescent lights. Shadows bruised the skin beneath her eyes and her hands trembled in her lap. The weight of the night pressed on them both, heavy and unrelenting. A uniformed officer stood a few feet away, notebook in hand, face set in a mask of polite detachment. "Sir, we have taken the man into custody. He is being questioned now." Ethan nodded, barely registering the words. His gaze was fixed on Anna, his chest a battlefield of relief and suspicion. Anna's voice broke the silence, fragile as glass. "Ethan, I never wanted this. I never wanted you to be dragged into Marcus's world." He clenched his jaw, fighting to steady his breathing. "Then why, Anna? Why him? Why betray me like that?" Tears spilled down her cheeks as she looked. At him, her voice a desperate whisper. "Because he threatened to ruin you. He had evidence, financials, photos, things that would have destroyed everything you built. I thought if I gave him what he wanted, I could protect you." His eyes darkened, anger flaring beneath the surface. "You chose him over me." She shook her head fiercely. "No. I chose you, Ethan. I always chose you. Even when I left, I did it to keep you safe." The weight of her words hung between them, heavy as lead. A nurse approached, holding a small envelope. "Mr. Clark," she said softly, "the results of the paternity test." Ethan took the envelope with trembling hands. His heart pounded in his ears as he tore it open, scanning the lines with a mix of dread and hope. Positive. Ethan Clark, biological father. The air left his lungs in a single ragged exhale. Relief and disbelief warred in his chest. He looked up at Anna, her eyes wide with fear and hope. "It's true," he said, his voice cracking. "He's mine." A sob escaped Anna's lips, her hands flying to her mouth. "I'm so sorry. Ethan, I should have told you everything sooner. I was so afraid, so ashamed." He crossed the space between them, dropping to his knees in front of her. "Anna, you broke my heart. You shattered us. But you gave me a son." She collapsed into his arms, her body trembling with guilt and relief. "I never stopped loving you," she whispered against his shoulder. "Never." His arms tightened around her, his own tears soaking her hair. "I never stopped either. I tried to hate you, but I couldn't." For a moment, The antiseptic smell faded, replaced by the warmth of a family reunited, fragile but real. The police officer cleared his throat gently. "We'll need your statement soon, sir. Ma'am." Ethan nodded, not taking his eyes off Anna. "We'll be there." As the nurse led them away, Ethan's grip on Anna's hand tightened. Whatever storms lay ahead, they would face them together, armed with a truth that no one, Marcus included, could ever take away. Ethan stood at the window of the hospital room, the first rays of dawn filtering through the blinds. The world outside was bathed in a fragile light, the kind that promises a new beginning but carries the weight of yesterday's shadows. The baby stirred in his arms, a small, warm presence against Ethan's chest. He marveled at the tiny fingers that clutched his thumb, the delicate trust of a life too young to know the scars of betrayal and regret. Anna lay propped against the pillows, her hair damp from sleep, her face pale but peaceful. Her eyes opened slowly, the vulnerability in them raw and real. For a moment neither of them spoke. Ethan's mind turned over the chaos that had brought them here. The lies, the danger, the moments of weakness and the sparks of strength. He had built empires, crushed rivals, and chased success with a ruthlessness that left little room for forgiveness. But in the quiet of this room, with the baby's gentle breath warming his arm, he felt something shift. Anna's voice was soft, hesitant. "He looks like you." He managed a small smile, though it did not quite reach his eyes. "I see it now, his eyes, the same stubborn set to his jaw." She reached out, her hand trembling as it brushed the baby's blanket. "I wish I could take it all back, the lies, the pain I caused. I was so scared of losing everything." Ethan's heart clenched, the weight of his own guilt pressing heavy on his chest. "And I was so scared of letting you in, of believing that you could hurt me again." A tear slipped down Anna's cheek. "Do you think we can ever go back to what we were?" He shook his head slowly, his voice thick with emotion. "No, Anna. We cannot go back. But maybe, just maybe, we can build something new, something better." She closed her eyes, relief and sorrow mingling on her face. "I would give anything for that. I want to make it right, Ethan. For us. For him." He moved closer to the bed, the baby still nestled safely in his arms. "Then let's start here. Today. I cannot promise I will not falter, that I will not struggle to trust again, but I promise I will try. For him. And for you." Anna's breath hitched as she reached for his hand, her fingers entwining with his. "And I promise I will never let fear drive me away again. We are stronger together." He leaned down, brushing his lips against her forehead. The baby's tiny hand curled around his finger, an anchor in the uncertain sea of their future. Sunlight spilled across the floor, painting the sterile tiles with a warmth that felt almost foreign. But Ethan welcomed it, let it chase away the shadows that had clung to his heart. He sat on the edge of the bed, the baby between them, his head resting lightly on Anna's shoulder. The three of them together, a fragile but unbreakable unit. Outside, the window, the city stirred to life. Horns honked in the distance, birds called to each other in the pale sky. It was a city full of secrets and betrayals, but also of second chances. Anna turned her head to look at him, her eyes shining with a cautious hope. "Ethan, thank you for believing in me, even after everything." He met her gaze, a smile playing at the corners of his mouth. "We have both made mistakes, but today I choose to believe that we can be more than those mistakes." Her hand squeezed his gently, a silent vow. As the baby cooed softly, Ethan felt the past receding, leaving room for a new story to be written. He would protect them, both of them, and he would fight for the love he had once taken for granted. The sun climbed higher, its rays strong and unwavering, as if daring him to keep his promise. And he knew he would. A new dawn had come, and with it, the fragile hope of something true.